soy whananui and langi ma. Warm Pacific greetings to everyone. G'day. I bring greetings from our convener, Dr. Haley, Dr. Nicole Haley, who is stuck in the exotic island of Canberra. She too travelled to Papua New Guinea and got an infection, so is unable to be with us. But she originally had been scheduled to speak. I just also want to acknowledge Mac and Ralph for all their hard work, and it's been good to collaborate. I can still see you behind the pole, bro. And we're really excited to be partnering and helping to sponsor this great conference. So, State Society and Governance and Melanesia program is based at the Australian National University. We are the largest concentration of Pacific scholars in the world. So we have about 30 Pacific academics and about close to 40 PhD students. The sad thing about all of that is that I am one of 3 Pacific Island scholars there. So to be back home in Auckland, to be amongst, Damon Sales's and other Pacific scholars is a real honour for me. It's a real homecoming, and I feel a little bit weird because I'm a Polynesian talking about Melanesia in New Zealand. Usually I'm fighting to say, Polynesia's important too in Australia, so just please bear with me. I'm presenting some of the research that we have done through SSGM in terms of ICT, mobile technology, but I think before I start, I just also want to acknowledge our colleagues and friends at the University of Papua New Guinea. So to all the young people who are here, we talk about the struggle being real, but in PNG, students are being fired upon because they want to get a real education. And I think we are really privileged to be able to go to school in New Zealand, to get the kind of education that we do, to have these freedoms. And I think it would be irresponsible of us not to take that and not to do good. So please, don't just go to school, eat your lunch and play with your friends like I did, but listen to your teachers. Do as Jamie said, open the doors for other people, be good to one another. And there have been people before you who've helped to make these kind of conferences available to you, so that's just my little plea. So we have been running these election campaigns or domestic observations for the last maybe 7 years. So we started off with Papua New Guinea in 2007, and luckily enough we were there for the launch of Digicel. And then in 2012 again we went there. The great thing, and I think, I'm proud to talk on behalf of SSGM because I've come across a lot of people who are pretty tokenistic in what they do for Pacific, but this is one unit who really puts their money where their mouth is and really does support Pacific research and Pacific knowledge and Pacific people. So with our research, we always team up with local observers, and all our students or people that we've partnered with have come from universities and from CSOs, from private sector, and they've all been young people. So we've tried to give them a taste of what research is, tried to get them engaged in civic society, education, and especially politics. So as Damon said, Pacific is mostly young people. There's a huge youth bulge, and they are the majority, yet when it comes to having their voices heard, they are always the voiceless. And they're always the marginalised. And so through these kinds of activities, we hope that they become empowered to find their voice and to be able to ask those hard questions like our friends in PNG did, and say, to governments, you are representing us, you need to do right by us. What are you doing? And that's the kind of space that universities are. We need to be asking those hard questions. We need to be looking at ourselves too and seeing what is it that we must be doing too in order to help our people in our society to do better. This year we went to Samoa, our first time in Polynesia, yay! And we partnered with Leadership Samoa, the National University of Samoa, and the Samoan Office for the Electoral Commission. For this observation, we have kind of a big journal, and it covers from nominations to the campaigning period, through to elections, through to counting, results, and disputes. But I think the key thing for us is that we have citizen surveys. So we poll survey citizens before the election and after the election. So every observer interviews 20 people. And so that gives us a nice cross-section and diversity of the populations that we are surveying. But also, for us, it's kind of understanding the pulse of the nation. So, mobile phones is kind of a new phenomenon in terms of politics in Pacific, but it's been taken on, and people, politicians, and electoral commissions have kind of run with it. And so in our first observation in 2007, when Digicel was launched, we didn't quite understand the scope of how ICT would take off in the Pacific until we went back again in 2012 and saw the good things and the bad things that mobile phones can do. So it was good in terms of promoting awareness about the process, but also it became a new avenue for candidates to start bribing people for their votes. So, with every good thing, there's always going to be a loophole. And bribery was coming out and giving them kina, or saying, I will give you $20 worth of credit if you give me your vote. So, pretty, different. I just wanted also to talk about how mobile phones have been used to, are having used in order to film candidates, and when they're saying that I am going to do this, I am going to do that, people have actually put that on videotape and made those candidates accountable when they get in, so it's kind of a good thing. Okay, so in terms of, I think this is the one area in which all the countries have really improved on, and the reason why they've improved on it is that they've made the most of social media. And so in terms of getting their messages out to young and old, they've used traditional print media, but they've also, in radio, but now using Facebook and bulk texting through providers like Digicel and Blue Sky. And I think the best thing from Samoa was that the Vice Chancellor of National University of Samoa said that this was, the most orderly, the most calm, and the most, well-run election he has ever seen as a voter, because of the social awareness that the Office of the Electoral Commission had done in terms of getting all the information out there. And to all my fellow Samoans, from our observations, I guarantee you that on polling day there was no corruption. It probably happened before we got there. And there's also a few issues that happened in terms of running these elections. So this was kind of good in kind of keeping the peace with citizens by keeping them up to date about why there are delays in getting the information across. So, we were actually there during this whole counting on election day, and it was just chaotic. But you had people ringing up going, why isn't my uncle's results up? Well, these are like 360 people coming in with their ballot boxes, trying to be counted by only 10 people, so that's the reason why. So, mobile phones, they're becoming more relevant today, and I think it has good things and bad things with most things, but I think in terms of a tool of promoting social awareness and in terms of getting the messages across about your rights as a voter, about the process, it actually is really effective, particularly in reaching youth who tend to be the most disengaged and who don't like typically to vote. So I think this is one way of kind of getting more people, or kind of getting the message across and making sure that people have the right information in order to make an informed decision about whether they want to vote or not. Okay, so I'm going to kind of slightly change tack here, and these three beautiful young Fijian men are all from the University of the South Pacific. They've also been alumni of our Pacific Research Colloquium. So the Pacific Research Colloquium, we bring about 30 young scholars from the Pacific to do 2 weeks of intensive training with us. We pay for their airfare, pay for their accommodation, pay for their food, and then we give them pocket money. So it's pretty popular. And I think that these guys in particular have really benefited from the program, so much so that their projects have been published widely. But I think also I just wanted to make note here that with the rise of social media, there are some pitfalls, and a lot of predators are out there. There's a lot of cyberbullies too, and so a lot of keyboard warriors, and so I think it's important that if you cannot say it to somebody in their face, why would you put it on Facebook? Okay. And the other thing too is a lot of people in Samoa and Tonga were getting messages from Kenya saying that they won $1 million, yay! But, if you click on that link, you probably won't get $1 million. So the Australian Federal Police, together with the National Rugby League, have been doing a lot of cyber safety awareness, and I think this is something that we also need to be mindful of, but also encouraging people who are very vulnerable, and if they want, if they see $1 million coming into their inbox, then they're going to click on those links. But these guys have a special place in my heart because they are very vocal. They're not a boy band. They're wearing Free West Papua t-shirts, and I think, to young people, this is an example of what you can do as a Pacific Island researcher about things that are important to you, but in terms of getting your voice out there about important issues that, usually people don't think you have any experience of or don't think that you're qualified to talk about, but these guys have kind of broken those barriers and have gotten a lot of support behind them. So one of their projects is this political social media campaigns in Fiji. These guys have grown up in an era where they've only known coups. Okay, so for them, the whole idea of an election was new and foreign and exciting. But again, questioning the government and saying, well, is this election going to be free and fair? And are we going to get a democratic outcome? And so from this project, they looked at social media because, again, the government realised that the youth had the bulk of the vote, and so Facebook actually became this really nasty battleground for campaigning. And their research kind of had a lot of interesting outcomes for it, but also in terms of kind of feminism, youth, politics engagement, and how it was able to break those normal barriers, but also to change the story, to change the narrative, to change the rhetoric that are usually in traditional print media, and to give, I guess, a real account of what was happening to them in their local villages and neighbourhoods. And so this project that they worked on is about from social networking to activism. So this project looked at the Free West Papua campaign, and looked at how social media and Facebook and YouTube and all these kind of devices or platforms that millennials love can be used in terms of growing bottom-up regionalism. So, again, being good neighbours and loving their Melanesian brothers and sisters in Papua, they had a look at all this research that was out there, but also started their own campaigns and seeing how far their messages could get across, particularly when a lot of media is censored in Papua, in terms of our West Papua brothers and sisters who, are having it really rough over there. Their stories aren't getting told, but this is one way in which these stories can get told and their voices can be heard. Is this the start of bottom-up regionalism? And it's starting with youth. So I think that's a great thing, and I kind of agree with them. I think this is the start of bottom-up regionalism. It's not done in the traditional diplomatic fashions, although that does work too. But I think this is a way in which we can come together. Connectivity brings everyone together. That you can highlight your struggles, and then by showing our alofa and love for one another, that we can come together and kind of help others around us who aren't as better off as us to kind of fight for freedom. So I just wanted to say, ICT, mobile technology, social media has a special place. It's a place in which, as young people, as youth, you can use it to your benefit. And I think that we need to be mindful of that when we are on there, and that we need to be mindful of all the information that is there. But you cannot ignore the stories that are coming out of these places. And that, I guess, you guys have a real opportunity to do good. I think from the Free West Papua campaign, we can show that collectively we can make a change, be the agents of change that our parents who migrated over from the Pacific wanted us to be, and then to give back to our brothers and sisters in the Pacific. Please be good to one another, stay safe. I've stayed to love it.